I know many of you doesn't have Capture One, so I want to show you the example of the same raw conversion using just Camera Raw instead of Capture One. You can see this is already processed image that I just did in Capture One, but we're going to try to do similar process in Camera Raw, which will be a little bit more difficult because in Camera Raw the images have a little bit more washed out color, so it's not as strong as in Capture One. But I resolved this quickly by just bringing up more of the vibrance to the image, and this resolved the part of the issue. Of course, then the same thing, like I'm taking down the highlights as I did the same before, and I'm bringing up a little bit of the shadows, which maybe about the highlights and shadows control, I like it more in Camera Raw actually. So okay, I did this few steps in basic panel. Well, we can see the difference. We can see it will be much easier to retouch the highlights over here right now. So let's move to the part how to adjust the background a little bit more. My favorite panel for it is hue, saturation, luminance. I can manually adjust the hue, but the difference with the Capture One, I can choose exactly the color I'm working with in Capture One, and I cannot do this really in Camera Raw. That creates some difficulties, as you can see, but after few tries I can work with purples and blues over here. I will be getting probably closer with it. So this is worth to try in here. It will be more difficult to adjust, but we can try to do this. So I'm going to work with purples and blues. The same about the saturation. Saturate the blues. Maybe saturate the purples a little bit more. And before and after, we get in this bluish color actually. It's not as strong, and maybe we won't do color balance as we did this in Capture One, but it's not a problem because color balance is something you can always do in Photoshop. And luminance, I wonder if darkening probably will not work. So okay, this was the first step we sort of did. The color balance we could replace probably by working with shadows over here, as you can see, with split tuning, and it does sort of help you a little bit, help us a little bit, but I'm just afraid it could give us a little bit of the artificial result on the skin, so I would give up this. I really, as I like to work with this in Capture One, I'm not so convinced in working with this with Camera Raw. So okay, we are at this point and we didn't get as far as we want to, but don't worry. I'm going to open this image as an object, so press Shift to open this as an object. And in Photoshop, we will have open the not image, but the object. So if I want to do more editing, what I would do, I will just maybe create a sort of a stamp because I want to start from 0 right now. So I'm going to create a stamp, Command Option Alt and E. Can I do this? Seems I have to duplicate this first. So remember, if you want to apply the changes to this image on the settings you always have to hit right and choose New Smart Object via Copy. But we want to have totally new image. So I'm just going to copy the image, not Smart Object. And then I'm going to create a stamp and I'm going to call this as a BG because I will want to work with background color a little bit more. So that's why I call this as a BG. And then I'm going to hit right. And of course I want to convert this into a Smart Object. And I will try to do a little bit more work in Camera Raw. But make sure before this step you finished all of the other settings like shadows, highlights, because now we want to just work with background. And then filter, I'm going to Camera Raw, and I will try to push a little bit more from the colors of my background. It's working a little bit. We get in there. And I would stop at this point. It's not really as much as I want. Let's hit OK. But it's near where we want. And later it will be much easier for us, let's say, working with color balance, as you can see. We'll be able to easily adjust the color for the background as we like it. So you see, in these few simple steps, it's really worth sometimes to work with in camera. Don't worry, because you can achieve similar results no matter in which conversion, raw conversion software you will be working with.